It's 1845, a crisp evening in Vienna. The wind dances around you as your carriage rolls to the gentle stop. You step outside, feeling the chill in the air, anticipation building as you prepare to attend the theater. The grand chandeliers sparkle, the velvet seats beckon, and you feel the excitement in the air. You take your seat and the curtains open, but as the performance begins, it's not the actor's performance that steals your focus. It's their hair. You take a closer look at the elaborate hairstyles, the way their locks are styled, elegant, intricate, and perfect, so captive that you can't focus on the performance. Some of them having their hair pinned up, while others have them beautifully braided. This is what I want, you say to yourself. Hair like this. We feel like this is how the person we are focusing on today's episode might have experienced it. A person known for extravagant and big hairstyles that only women of high social ranking could afford. Have you already guessed who we are talking about today?
How scandalous.
No way.
I didn't know that.
You're kidding me.
No.
Tell me more about it.
History Gossip, the podcast spilling the tea on history's wildest stories, iconic royal drama, and the most chaotic events.
Welcome to History Gossip, where we dive deep into the bizarre stories, habits, or events of history. My name is Leila.
And I'm Melanie.
And in today's episode, we are talking about Elizabeth. Or maybe our listeners are more familiar with her nickname, Sissy. And to be more specific, we will talk about one body part of hers. Maybe our listeners already guess which one it is.
Sissy, she wasn't a princess or something?
Actually, she was the Empress of Austria and Queen of Hungary.
Oh, so she was more than a princess. Much more.
Absolutely. But let me give you some hard facts about Sissy.
Reality check.
She was born on December 24th, 1837, and she was married to Franz Joseph I until her assassination in 1898. And before people start Googling, yes, Franz and Sissy were first cousins.
Sure.
She was 16 years old when she married 24-year-old Franz, but Sissy was still referred to as the Empress of Eternal Youth and Beauty.
This doesn't surprise me with her big and beautiful dresses and the long brown hair.
Yeah, I would kill to have hair like hers.
And the hairstyles, I can barely braid my own hair.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but of course she had someone to do that for her.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yes, and she was kind of finicky when it came to her hair.
Really? How so?
Well, for one thing, Sissy had super long hair, which wasn't common back in the day and still isn't. Her hair was down to her knees, so it needed a lot of work to make it manageable.
That long? That's not something you see every day. Not today and not back then.
Exactly, and that's why her hair care took several hours a day.
Hours?
Yeah, about 3 hours every day.
Wow.
Can you believe it?
Wow.
And you have to remember, she lived in the mid-19th century, so washing her hair wasn't really a daily occurrence. Sissy's hair was washed about every 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. They couldn't just hop into the shower, right?
Exactly, and drying the hair did also take up the whole day. In the summer, the sun would help, but in the winter, she would sit there next to the fireplace.
But then your hair would smell like smoke. But of course, as an empress and queen, you have people to help you with hair wash day. What a dream. I wish Sissy's hairdresser would come over and do my hair.
Totally, but you have to remember, Sissy's routine wasn't like our modern hair care routine.
Oh yes, they probably didn't have shampoo and conditioner, right?
No, but you will never guess what they used instead. They washed the empress' hair with egg yolk and cognac.
Ew, alcohol and eggs, and that worked?
Apparently, the alcohol supposedly make the hair shiny. But there's more.
More?
Yes. Of course, there wasn't any kind of hair gel, so the hairdresser used lard to braid Sissy's hair. But before she brushed her hair with an amber comb, which was gentle on the hair.
Lard? That's pork fat, right?
Yeah,
Ew.
exactly.
Who was this hairdresser? Did you find out?
Yes, I actually did. She was a woman called Franziska Pfeifferlich, but everyone called her Fanny. I would say Fanny had the most important job at the time, because Sissy's mood really depended on how her hair looked, therefore this complex routine.
So Sissy wasn't playing around with bad hair days.
Not at all.
But it also makes sense, especially when you're in the public eye as much as she was, you want to have nice hair.
Yes, and while brushing Sissy's hair, Fanny wasn't allowed to wear rings and had to put on gloves.
Gloves seem a little much. Was it because of all the gross products in her hair?
Well, it could be. But Sissy's reputation also made her somewhat godly, and touching a member of the Empress family wasn't allowed. That's why she had to wear gloves.
Okay, I see. So how did they meet exactly?
Sissy actually found her future hairdresser at the Burgtheater, where Fanny worked as the hairdresser for the actors.
Wow, I guess she really liked her work.
Yes, and there was a whole discussion around the country if Fanny should really work for Sissy.
What? That seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. I even found an extract of a newspaper called Morgenpost from April 1863. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, sure.
The question pending for a long time, whether a man or a woman hairdresser would assume service to Her Majesty the Empress, has finally been settled. Fräulein Angera relinquishes the order of chauffeurs to court actresses as the honorarium assigned to it, and receives instead of a compensation of 2,000 forint a year to devote herself to the most excellent service as an imperial hairdresser, whereby, time permitting, other artistic earnings are not excluded.
Wow, so it really was a big deal that even the public got notified about? The hairdresser of the Empress?
Yes, and 2,000 forint was a lot of money back then. A university professor at the time would have made the same amount of money.
Okay, so Fanny was really that girl back then.
Totally, but Fanny also knew how to handle the Empress and keep her happy.
How so?
Well, as Fanny was working on Sissy's hair, she would hide the loose strands of hair in her apron and then show her the clean comb, which of course made Sissy very happy. This sneaky trick made Sissy love Fanny even more.
That's pretty wild. And Sissy didn't catch on?
Well, not that we know of. And that also how her hair became a symbol of beauty and youth. Sissy also frequently said that she was a slave to her hair.
Wow, I had no idea her obsession went that far.
Yes, therefore Fanny quickly became the only person to work on Sissy's hair. There's even evidence that suggests that Sissy would skip functions if Fanny wasn't able to do her hair.
Skipping royal functions because of hair? That's next level hair obsessed.
I think so too, but Fanny also took this to her advantage.
She sounds kind of smart. Can you tell me more about her?
Well, for example, if Sissy got on her nerves, she would pretend she wasn't feeling well, so somebody else had to go through the routine with her.
Okay, I can only imagine Sissy's reaction.
Yes, there is even a quote where Sissy talks about such an instance with her teacher.
Let's hear it.
After several such days of hairdressing, I'm quite worn down. She knows that and waits for capitulation.
Well, Sissy, you better treat your helpers right.
Yes, so you see how Sissy's relationship with Fanny went beyond just hairstyling. It was a deeply personal bond. But did you know that Sissy also took an active role in Fanny's personal life, particularly when it came to her marriage?
Wait, what? Sissy got involved in her hairdresser's love life? That's kind of wild. It does not surprise me after hearing all of that because they did spend so much time together, right?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Fanny, as we know, was devoted to Sissy, but also fell in love with someone outside of the court, a middle-class bank official. The problem was, she couldn't marry him because it was against the strict rules of the court. If she married him, she had to leave the position with the Empress.
So she had to be single? That doesn't sound good for either of them, considering what position she would be giving up and Sissy being, well, let's say, kind of difficult.
Exactly, but here's where things get interesting. Sissy was so protective of Fanny, she stepped in to help. She actually intervened personally with her husband, the Emperor, to get an exception to the rules. Because of Sissy's influence, Fanny was allowed to marry and still keep her position at court.
That's amazing. So what happened to the husband?
Well, Hugo Fafelik was also given a position at court, and he started as a private secretary to the Empress and then worked his way up. Eventually, he became the Reisemarschall, kind of like a travel supervisor, and naturally, Fanny went along on all of Sissy's travels.
Well, that's surely one way to keep someone to work for you.
Yes, but let's get to the pub quiz section of our podcast and spill some tea, or in our case, some coffee on Fanny and Empress Elizabeth.
So what did you find out?
Fanny's father was actually a hairdresser, so that's probably how she got so good at it.
Makes total sense that this kind of talent runs in the family.
Yes, and remember when I talked about the court news that Fanny will become Sissy's hairdresser?
Yes, is there more to the story?
Yeah, a detail which is kind of funny is how other ladies of high society were against this motion.
Why is that?
So, the other ladies could also get their hair done by Fanny.
Well, they lost that fight.
And Fanny and Sissy also kind of looked alike, which became handy when Sissy was traveling.
Yeah, now that you say it, I can totally see a resemblance between those two. So Sissy's hairdresser was also her doppelganger?
Yes, and their age difference was just 4 years, so they could totally pull it off.
Speaking of traveling, Sissy did speak a lot of languages, right?
Yes, she did. She was really interested in learning new languages and spoke about 7 languages in total, which also makes sense as the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was a multi-ethnic state.
7 languages? Wow, so she's a polyglot. That's impressive. How did she find the time, considering her hair routine?
She actually did it at the same time. As Fanny was working on her hair, her teacher would teach her the language.
Ah, that makes total sense.
And another fun fact is that Sissy smoked, like, a lot.
Really?
Some say that it helped her suppress her hunger, and she would constantly be on a diet.
Oh well, they surely didn't teach us about her anorexia in school.
Yes, and this and the extravagant hair probably were the trigger for many mysterious headaches the emperor had.
Not so mysterious after all.
Nope. Alright, I think it's time to wrap things up here.
Yes, drink up your coffee, and thanks for giving us all the juicy details on Empress Sissy and her hairdresser Fanny. Who would have thought that the person most important to her wasn't her husband, but her hairdresser?
Yeah, it's honestly kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? I also got the sense that Fanny really knew her worth. She was so skilled and so trusted by Sissy that in a way she held the keys to the empress' whole public image.
Right, I mean, going so far to have the rules changed just so she could marry and still keep working for Sissy, that's real loyalty and dedication.
Definitely, and let's not forget she did Sissy's hair for 33 years. That's not just a job, that's a lifetime of trust, expertise, and honestly, a lot of secrecy.
Yeah, speaking of which, can you imagine the amount of stuff she must have kept to herself over those years? Fanny never spilled a single secret. It's incredible how much she must have known about Sissy's personal life, and yet she kept it all confidential.
True, her discretion was just as important as her skill with a comb. It was a bond built on trust in every way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this little glimpse into the world of Sissy and Fanny, and we'd love to see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to History Gossip. This episode was written by your host, Leyla Sikiric, co-host, Melanie Schönberger, concept and project management, Lena Jansa and Melanie Schönberger, editing, Melanie Schönberger. History Gossip is a project developed by students of the University of Vienna.